Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lynette Munson. I'm with Capital Group, and I am the Management Group.
And I am Tony Salas, and I'm actually with the Infrastructure Operations team. And my team actually supports the xMatters implementation along with a couple other things like monitoring and logging. And today we're going to talk a little bit about secrets of a 60-minute SLA, basically how incident management and communications kind of come together and improve our restoration of service. Before we get into that, just a little bit about Capital Group. We are, as you mentioned, based in California, in LA. We've got about 10,000 employees, about another 2,000 or so partners and contractors, located in, I want to say, about 24 offices. We're popping up offices all the time in new countries and places like that. So the exact number is 27, 28, something like that. But suffice to say, we've got offices all over the world. And our kind of primary business is investment management. Think mutual funds, think 401k plans, retirement plans, education type accounts, institutional type, all these investments to the tune of about $1.25 trillion. So we take our job very, very seriously. And to support all of that, we've got an IT organization that is about 3,000 people, about 1,500 or so associates, and that again in partners and contractors. And we're also located in pretty much all the sites around the world. But as a central services organization, we're concentrated in Texas and in Southern California. And as a central services organization, we support teams regardless of their function, from the research to the marketing to the trading and all of our shareholder services and whatnot. And when things don't quite go right, when things go bump in the night, it's this group here that kind of gets rallied and we jump into action. And Lynette will actually talk a little bit about how all that happens. Lynette?
Absolutely. Thank you. So like most of you here, when a major incident occurs, the first thing we do is it's everybody on deck, get everybody engaged because we have a major incident. We're integrated with our service management tool, so the minute we have an infrastructure restoration critical or high, we automatically start notifying our teams. We did a really great job that we're getting DC Ops involved as well as a resolving team. But once that process occurs, we started seeing a little bit of a hiccup. As we were trying to get additional teams on board, we realized that we could be missing something. So we had to stop and think, how many licks to the center of that lollipop? 1, 2, 42? Like the wise owl, we had to stop and say, how many minutes is it really taking us to engage these teams? The notifications were going out. We were seeing the responses come in that they were accepting, but nobody was joining that bridge call. The other thing that we decided that we really needed to fine-tune was we were not getting our incident management team engaged quickly enough. We were relying on our DC Ops and that resolving team to make that initial triage and decision, do we need to do this? So you can see, it took a minute for the notification to go out, 42 minutes for that first team to join. DC Ops is waiting on the phone thinking, okay, somebody join here, we've got a major incident. In the meantime, we don't have any incident managers on as well. So the wise owl, we had to take a step back. With the introduction of Remedy on Demand this past February, it gave us the opportunity to really look at our process and fine-tune it to the point where we wanted to make sure that our 3 primary triage teams were on board, the trio. We wanted to make sure DC Ops was engaged. Our high IM groups were engaged. And the resolving teams were engaged all at the same time. With Remedy on Demand, we were able to do that by using the conference bridge. When we have an infrastructure restoration event that occurs, notification goes out to DC Ops. It will take them approximately a minute to enter that bridge information. That second call is going out within minutes. We're seeing that all 3 teams are engaging, accepting, and joining a bridge call. So that 42 minutes that we were seeing before, where somebody would accept and not join, we're not seeing that anymore. They really don't have a choice. We're dropping them straight into the bridge. I think one of my favorite stories about the length of time, somebody accepted pretty quick, 2 minutes into the incident. 10, 15, 20 minutes later, they still weren't on the call. So after everything was said and done, we had to do our problem investigation, and we said, we saw you accepted, but what took so long? Well, I was out walking my dog. It took me 20 minutes to get back to the apartment. So while they had good intent to accept, they didn't realize that there were people waiting on that bridge for them to take that next move. When Remedy on Demand launched and we were able to get the trio on more quickly, we saw a rapid increase in how we were deploying and resolving our incidents, our major incidents. But then we had to think, we did such a great job in our major incident space, where else can we take this? One of the pain points in our organization, because we are a financial institution, is user service restoration highs. We have a 60-minute service target on any user service restoration high. And you might think that's pretty aggressive for a single user. But if we have a trader whose laptop's not working, they can't execute that trade, it's almost as impactful if we had a broad spread impact. The problem is most of these user service restoration highs, less than 50% were hit in target, but almost 90% of them were being handled by our global desktop teams. I mean, they were out in the field, they were already working on other issues. That incident was sitting in their queue, 50% to target, 75% to target. Sometimes it had already breached target before they even realized that they had an issue. So we were able to leverage the quick messaging functionality inside of xMatters. It's still a manual process, but the minute we have an infrastructure restoration or infrastructure user service high, our service desk will automatically send a quick message to that team. The first person, the most available person, will then accept it and then make their way to that associate that needs help. So our associates never felt like they were constantly being chased by that service target clock, or they could never hit that target. We've gone from less 50% of meeting target to approximately 75, 80%, with more to come. We always look for automation. We have already packaged the code. When we have the next release between our service management tool and xMatters, we're going to push out the automation so it'll function very similar to what we have with our major incident management. Only thing the service desk will have to do is open that ticket and an automatic notification will go out to those teams. That's going to be even faster because we've even saved 1 or 2 more minutes, possibly, that service desk doesn't have to open up and manually produce that call out. So needless to say, when you look at the business benefits, it was a very easy sale for our management team to get on board with this. Reduces the impact to our customers. That's primary and foremost our objective. Reduces follow-up by the service desk. And instead of them sitting there constantly have to monitoring a chat or looking at the incident to see if somebody's picked it up, they're able to see that immediately. And it lowers cost for the overall process. Everybody's engaging quickly, everyone knows what they're supposed to do, and they react accordingly. So, we felt pretty good about what we've done so far. We've got the trio on quicker. We're using it for our service restoration, user service restoration highs. But there were other pain points in the organization, and we heard it very clearly from our end users. One of those is, great, the trio's getting on, but by the time we assessed that it was indeed a major incident, we were having to call out 5, 6, 7 other teams. Single thread, one by one. Just wasn't efficient. What we did is we focused primarily on our critical services, and we're starting to build tiger teams. We're using scenarios to help us do that. As soon as that trio is engaged, they've identified that it indeed is a major issue. The only thing they have to say is 2 words or a couple of words: execute tiger team. We've built a couple of samplings. What we're focused on now is we're seeing a lot of the similarities in infrastructure teams, database teams, server teams that are engaged. So we're trying to standardize that, come up with some standard infrastructure teams, database, and then sprinkle in the flavors that we need to do to support that particular service. So far, it's running pretty smoothly. There's always improvements to be had. I think we were pretty impressed with some of the new features that we heard coming up. Yeah. It'll answer some of these things that we've been working on. The receptivity for this for our customers have tripled the engagement. I know Tony's team, service management as well, we've just been inundated with questions about, hey, can you help me set up my groups? I've heard you're doing this for this group. How can we leverage this in our team? So I think as an organization as a whole this year, especially moving to the Remedy on Demand, we've just seen a really uptake in what we're able to do. So again, we wanted to make sure that we engage the right teams, not all teams. We want to make sure that only the teams that really need to be engaged, and we just don't do that all personnel on deck, fire drill. Engage them immediately. Couple of words, it's a major execute scenario. And ultimately is to restore service in a timely manner. We have seen a pretty sufficient increase, or I should say decrease, in mean time to restore service. So I think overall, our teams are feeling pretty happy about what they're achieving. But how did we get here? What are our different integration points? And I'll let Tony talk y'all through that.
Thank you, Lynette. So just putting the platform in wasn't enough. Just getting the technology there isn't really enough. We had to figure out a way to actually bring it to bear. And one of the key parts was getting, the concept of human time out of the equation. If we have folks looking at consoles, looking for events that are happening and putting things in a tracking system, we're losing all kinds of time here. In fact, we had a system that supports our shareholder services group, the phone calls that we get every day. And when we had an issue there, because of certain compliance reasons, we needed to have a team engaged and on the phone within 10 minutes, which was, oh my goodness, there's no way we can do this. This concept of the Tiger team was essential, but we needed more than just simply that mechanism to notify. We needed to basically shorten the distance between the event itself and the response. This concept has been one of a challenge, and one we've had to start from the very beginning. We had to do integration points, basically automation integration. We use HP as our event management platform. Those monitors had to be connected up to our ticketing system, our Remedy on Demand. And with Remedy on Demand being connected with our xMatters platform, our communication platform, we're able to achieve that. Major incident happens, you have a ticket automatically created, and within just a matter of seconds, really, we've got notifications going out, and now we've removed that whole chunk of human time in there, and now we're talking about the system really moving it along. We don't have to kind of walk the thing through there, which has allowed us to get our technical bridge up and running very quickly, and we can start the triage. Different people are looking at different components of the system. Is the database okay? We got the network okay? The application and so forth, going through their various steps and processes and whatnot. But we needed more. It wasn't enough to simply bring the time down. We also needed to manage the event. And this is where we kind of took this concept one step further. And I think we actually heard it, a couple other folks mentioned it, bringing in our business partners to give their perspective. Sometimes we can kind of limp along. Let's not bring down a more critical system to fix something in there. We can wait until maybe it's a little bit later in the day. So what we wanted to do is really augment the conversation, bring more information into the conversation, and make a better business decision. We have certain things that have to happen by a certain time of day. We're a financial services company and regulations, and one of our big things is pricing all of our mutual funds and having that information out to our downstream partners. If those things don't happen by a certain time, SEC starts calling us, all kinds of things like that. So when those systems are down, all bets are off. We have to do whatever we can to get it going. But there's a few other systems that you don't want to bump out of the way if we've got an issue. So getting that perspective from compliance, from risk, getting that perspective really helps us make better decisions. And that's ultimately what we've really tried to get out of our communication platform in xMatters, is making better decisions in a more timely fashion. And some of the pieces that have helped us do that is some of the features that we've recently onboarded as we went to the cloud. So I think, as Lynette mentioned, we went to the cloud about 6 or 8 months ago, and with it, we were able to roll out a number of other features. Now, features are great and they're cool and everybody likes to see them, but what we've really found is that they've helped people engage better, more efficiently. One of the things that's so difficult is getting, in our on-prem, we were getting text messages or phone calls, and then we're trying to kind of juggle through, get the phone redialed, and all the various bridge numbers and whatnot. With the rolling out of SMS, the one-click drop-in has really helped us. We've shortened that distance between the event and the response. People are able to get it. I've carried my phone with me, except for right now, pretty much with me all the time. I'm able to get it and go. Another thing that we're really looking forward to, we've got a little bit of a skunkworks group using it right now, but is the mobile app. This is one of the things that we're really interested in using, as it not only goes with you everywhere you are, gives you a lot more features than just the simple SMS, but it also gives us that extra feel of support and safety, because it's an out-of-band communication. If we have a network issue, for instance, even though it's in the cloud, if we can't get to it, we may have some issues getting there. So this is one of the things that we're really looking forward to rolling out here in the near future. Now, one of the other new features that we've started to take advantage of is one, quick messaging. I'm sure people are kind of familiar with it. Our initial intention was to use it for incident management, but what we found is that it actually has been, people are actually more interested in other use cases for it. They're thinking, well, this is really good for getting the right teams involved and calling out a person who needs to be involved in an outage or whatever. But people are starting to say, you know, I got a project team that needs to coordinate a release, or I've got some testing that needs to happen, and we need to have servers and users and whatnot all in the right places. Maybe we can use it for that too. As Lynette mentioned earlier in her example, we've got service requests from users. There are some users that are more VIP than other users. And you might think CEOs and it's the traders, really. It's the traders, the folks that are moving millions and tens of millions of dollars around. They get somebody come to their door. They don't enter in this stuff on their own. So it's really easy to be able to send them send our service delivery folks a quick message, and then they're able to get there right there. Sometimes they have to walk away from somebody else and to go help them out, but that's part of it. The other really nice thing, being in a company of 10,000 odd folks, I don't have all those people in my contacts list. So being able to communicate really quickly with somebody who may have just started in a different organization, it's very easy to kind of have that quick and timely communication. But as I mentioned, just providing the functions wasn't enough. Just build it and they will come doesn't always work. And so one of the things that we recognized is getting this information out to our customers was really important. And we wanted to make sure everybody understood how to use it and where to use it and what the right use cases were and all that stuff. Right. So we actually took a lot of the new features, a lot of the new technologies, and a lot of interesting stuff. We took it on the road. We had a road show. And we went, so I mentioned we have 3 kind of primary areas where our support organizations are located, and we went to each one of them. We set up an all-day shop. We had a little concierge service where we said, this is a no-incident zone. Come on in. We'll look at your devices. We'll look at your schedules, your rotations, and we'll fix all that information up. And it worked out really, really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we have about 750 groups, support groups inside of our service management tool. 2,500 plus associates. So even though they wanted to do the right things, and a lot of times they felt they were doing the right things, it was a big disconnect from that training that we rolled out back in 2011 when xMatters first came on. We have job aids, we have everything on the SharePoint, but there was that disconnect. When we would have that dialogue with our users, they'd say, no, this is okay. And we'd say, no, it's not okay. No, it's okay if we call them out. I know they're not really on call, but it's okay. No, it's not, you know. But until you really get down, sit in that room, make that face-to-face contact, look at their schedule, look at their devices, walk through it with them, you could see light bulbs turning off all over the place. I think the most impressive is we would have someone leave the room. We've looked at the schedule or set up their SMS. 5-10 minutes later, somebody would come back in and say, Bobby was just here. Y'all set this up for him. Can you do it for me?
Yeah.
I think in San Antonio, we had 80 plus associates that visited our roadshow and our concierge lounge that one day. Yeah,
and it's actually something we thought would be a kind of a one hit all of our sites and be done with it. But we actually had so many people ask about us. Are you coming back? What's the next time you're coming? So come October, we're going to start all over again. We're going to start in each one of our sites and hit it. And so, our goal was to communicate with folks and hear what they're looking for and maybe, help address and get some best practices out there. But one of the things that we found is that there are use cases that we hadn't really thought about that people wanted to do. So actually, a couple of our xMatters support folks joined us for these sessions, Paul and Peyton. I don't know if you're out there, but thank you very much once again. They joined us and they brought lots of cool stuff, lots of cool swag. People are still asking about those phones, so But what they were able to do is, kind of talk to some of our users, kind of hear what they're interested in. And we had, in one case, we had a group that supports some of our communications to our banks, right? We have lots of fund transfers and various things that we have to move between banks and whatnot. And one of these banks uses email to tell us when they're changing something, when there's some planned outage, or when there's some other issue that's going on, email. And on more than one occasion, unfortunately, somebody was out of the office, didn't look at the, no eyes on the inbox, and we had a real problem. And actually, Paul kind of talked us through and gave us some information about this email channel. I think Ian spoke about it yesterday. It's been really interesting. In fact, we put together a real quick proof of concept, and we're looking to figure out a way to roll it out here in the short term. So it was really good to not only get information out, but we heard a lot of things. We heard a lot of interesting things, and it's turning into some really interesting, future here.
Yeah, believe it or not, even our senior management teams, the more we've done these road shows, have the concierge lounge, and we will be having concierge lounge every quarter going forward, just to give our users the opportunity to sit down with us, let us hear, not only can we help you with setting up, but what are your pain points? What can we help you with? What was interesting is after these road shows initially kicked off, the interest in xMatters just spiked. I mean, it's like within a couple of weeks, Tony's team, myself, service management, we were inundated with calls and requests, which was absolutely fabulous. So we knew we hit that sweet spot. We knew we filled that gap that we were missing to try to figure out how we could get all of these teams engaged.
Yeah. So what does the future bring? So, like I said, we're kind of in a constant evaluation of how do we shorten the distance between the event and the response. One of the things that we're interested in doing is maybe changing the model a little bit, not so much to reduce the distance, but remove the event altogether. Some of Kroger talked a little bit about getting more instrumentation data. This is one of the things that we're looking to do is use this as a platform to communicate instrumentation health type data, not to give us that something has gone down or something is about to crash, but rather here's just the trend of information. The market's doing this today, or we've got this other thing happening in another part of the world. Give us some information that will allow us to be proactive. Just think about what's happening and be more proactive in there. We're also looking to maybe expand the scope into more service management. Again, providing a little more information, and when we're doing changes, we're looking at the trending, it's kind of the problem management. And I think we're also looking potentially at leveraging some business continuity type scenarios here. So really, again, the communication pieces here are about getting right information in the right hands in a quick and efficient fashion. If we can use that information to shrink that time down, get restored service faster, get the right business communication, business perspective, it's all the better. We're trying to turn that into more proactive work, trying to turn that into more communications for non-incident based. So just kind of keeping everybody in tune with what's happening. Some of the things that we've seen here in the last couple of days have been pretty interesting. I know for one, I'm pretty excited about what I think Bond in November, the fall release, what's coming from Bond. So we're all really interested. So I think that's about that. Again, I'm Tony, and this is Lynette. And I don't know if we have time for questions.
Sure, absolutely.
There's information there. Thank you.
Thank you both. Do we have any questions for Lynette and Tony?
I can't quite. I've been strange watching you guys do this now.
One way in the back.
I'll let Tony answer that.
Got one back here.
Well, you talked about expanding into service management and system health. I was wondering if you could talk about any best practices you've found for reaching out. Is that where the roadshow comes in to get into other systems and other groups?
Absolutely. Like I said, the groups that were paged all the time, their settings, their devices, they were pretty solid on that. But it was those groups that we needed in those rare instances that maybe were paged once or twice a month or every couple of months. It allowed us to be able to reach out to our customer base to fill those pain points. There's some things that we took away, and we thought it was going to be more educational sharing. This is how you do this. This is how we want you to set up your groups. This is best practice on device order and all of that. But we walked away with some fantastic ideas. Tony spoke to one about having, vendor or using this for vendor communications, it's both ways. We had one of our
Yeah.
customers or users come in and say, we want to be able to contact vendors when we have an issue through this. Then we had one that come in and said, a vendor come in and say, I want to be able to contact y'all using xMatters when we have an issue to proactively tell y'all that we've got something going on.
Yeah, I support the platform, and some of the folks who they aren't here today, they get emails and kind of link messages all the time asking, can you set up? I heard you talk about this at the roadshow. Can you set this up for me? So putting a name to a face, kind of removing some of the distance between it, has really helped folks reach out, feel more comfortable about how to set it up, and then the opportunity to establish some best practices or maybe refresh best practices is really useful.